Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm back once again with yet another video. A bit of a different format today, as you can see by the tremendous lack of production value of any sort, really. But it's with good reason, I assure you. I have a special guest with me today, as you can see, my friend Matt, whom some of you might recognize from the Men of Harlech Charity March videos, if you watched those. Matt was instrumental in putting all of those together. Really could not have done those without him. But I've invited him onto the channel today because last weekend, we had something really special happen, which was, well, it was special for me because it was my first proper World War I reenactment. I've had this kit for, almost 2 years now. I started assembling it right before the pandemic in 2020. And I've had it all this time, and I have never really had an occasion to use it in a proper reenacting setting till just this past weekend. So we had a small little winter immersion event that was early war 1915 themed, and it was at Newville, which is a small town in Pennsylvania that is sort of like the mecca of all World War I reenacting, at least in North America. Twice a year they have a big tactical event. They have one in April and one in November, and hundreds of reenactors come from all across the country, and in some cases even from overseas. They come and they just have this big slugfest. But the event that we were at this past weekend was something of a little bit more smaller scale, a little more living history focused, not so much just all out combat. And yeah, it was really a fun and interesting experience. So I invited Matt on because we were both there. We drove down together. And so I thought we would just kind of like riff on it and kind of share how we thought the event went. So this will be sort of off the cuff, not as heavily scripted as most of my content. So if I trip over my words a lot, like I'm probably doing already, that's why. But yeah, let's just sort of dive into it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, this was an event that I think we were both really highly anticipating since it was announced.
Right.
You obviously had attended the tactical event in November previously. This is, I think, your third time at the site overall.
Yeah.
But your first time going to this particular event.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've already mentioned, it was my first time at any Newville event. So really kind of interesting to have this one be my first. I feel like most people probably have their first Newvilles, at either the spring or fall tacticals.
Right.
Not so much the smaller scale stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as I mentioned, this was early war 1915. So, specifically, it was supposed to be January of 1915, right after pretty much the conclusion of the Christmas truce,
Right.
which obviously was December 1914. And so there was a little bit of combat towards the very end of the event, but for the most part, it was basically just kind of focused on the stuff that, your average soldier would have been doing in the line when they weren't in combat. So we got there, I think around 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:30 in the afternoon on a Friday.
Yep.
Getting down there was a whole it was a whole other story.
Driving through that blizzard was
Yeah, because
a great time.
we drove down in a snowstorm. We picked you up in Old Saybrook, and there was already like a foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And the snow pretty much persisted through most of the way down. I mean, it wasn't snowing the entire time that we were driving, but there was a good blanket of snow pretty much everywhere that we went,
Yeah.
which was pretty fortunate, actually, because we got there at the site and there was already, a nice coating of snow. It looked very authentic and, very appropriate for the time that the event was supposed to be portraying.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because I think previous times that they've had this event, they've done this event and it's been like 60 degrees in the past. You look at
Yeah.
some
I
of the
mean,
photos from 2 years ago, and they're all out in their shirt sleeves, basically. So
yeah, exactly.
it was great that we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got there at around 2:30, and we went over to the barracks of the group that we were there representing, which is the Borders, obviously, as you can probably tell from the cap badges.
Yep.
And we started to unload all of our stuff into their barracks, which for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a tin shed, basically,
Mm-hmm.
with cots on either end of the wall, and you have these two little wood stoves. Not a lot of insulation going on in there. It's kind of an ice box. So we were, I don't know if we're stoked was the right word that I would use.
We were prepared to deal with it, but
yeah, But
Yeah, I mean,
fortunately,
mhm.
there were a lot of people who, well, both fortunately and unfortunately, it's unfortunate for
Yeah.
those who couldn't come. But it was supposed to be a much bigger event than it ended up being. I believe with the BEF, there were supposed to be 30 participants originally.
Yeah, between
Um,
us and I forget the other
yeah, I
there
think the
was another
Gordon
group. I
Highlanders
think
were
the
supposed to be
Gordon
there as well. Yeah.
The Gordons were supposed to be
Um,
there, but
a lot
yeah,
of
I
them
mean
had
a
to
lot of them
back out.
blocked out.
Yeah,
Yep.
either because of COVID or because of just the adverse weather we were having, or some combination of the two. We went down from 30 participants on the roster to I think about like 13. Actually,
Hmm.
less than 13,
Yeah.
because there were some people even within our group that was going to drive down together that had to back out last minute. So I think there were only about 8 people really in the
Yeah.
fighting force for the BEF. But it worked out in our favor because we were actually invited to stay at a different barracks, which was closer to the front line. It was the 42nd bunker,
Hmm.
which I'll have photos of all of this kind of smacked onto the screen throughout this video so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But it's nice. It's this really, I mean, it's this underground bunker basically that's, right at the back of the front line. And, it is cozy in there. I mean, it's, 2 doors, no windows, big wood stove on one side of the room, a bunch of bunks on the other side, some tables running down the middle. And we pretty much stayed there through Friday night and into Saturday morning.
Yep.
And it was toasty, I gotta say. So we
Yeah, I was
thankful for that.
especially happy we were staying in there because I kind of underestimated
Mhm.
how cold it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you
So
were
when I
just
knew we weren't going to stay in the ice box, I knew we were going to be okay. I
yeah,
mean,
I
we would
mean,
have been okay anyway, but it would have been a little less pain. It was a little less painful than I was anticipating.
yeah. Well, especially for you because you were just wearing that faux goat skin vest
Yeah,
rather than the green coat.
I quickly wised up and I put my gray coat on the
Mhm.
second day. So
Yeah, yeah, it was probably a good call.
yeah,
Um,
it was a great call.
yeah, so the event officially kicked off around 5 p.m. in the afternoon,
Yep.
and then went into the evening and basically continued overnight. Uh, And one of the first activities that they had us do was we formed up, and then they sent us out into the woods. There was a little observation post that some of the French troops had been constructing, which was basically just a little ditch at the top of this hill, and they had kind of constructed a rail fence out of all these branches that were lying around everywhere. Um, and we basically just started fortifying this ditch, and they had pickaxes and shovels, and we just kind of swapped off between um, being on sentry duty and just extending this ditch. And I think the Germans were kind of out there doing sort of a similar thing. We didn't actually see any Germans during the time that we were out there, but they
Yeah.
definitely had their own sentries posted. I
Yeah,
think
it
they were
was
probably waiting for us to try to come to them, which we didn't
yeah.
do.
It was a
Um,
little more open-ended than like a scripted battle. I
yeah.
mean that's just kind of how the nature of the event. I mean that even happens at the April and November events too.
Mhm.
Like it's you get like the time frame, you get like kind of I mean not us as like enlisted soldiers, but like, the overall command gets, a gist of what's going on, but after that it's kind of open-ended.
Yeah. So we
Which is
basically,
nice. There's room to do interesting things or not do anything at all. So
mhm. Yeah, so I mean, we dug this ditch and then we kind of just, proceeded to sit in it for another two
yep.
hours, just kind of waiting to see if the Germans showed up,
Yep.
which they did not during the time that we were there. We did encounter some French guys though. After we had been sitting in that ditch for about an hour, some of these French troops showed up and they were there to sort of reinforce us, which led to sort of a funny little encounter that we had,
Yep.
because these guys, they stayed in character the entire time that they
Yeah.
were there. I mean, they spoke in French the entire time. I didn't hear a single one of them say a single word in English, even though I know that they're capable because they're Americans like us. They're just playing at a different nationality. Um, but I mean, they decided to just kind of screw with us, I think, because we're sitting there, and then one of them walks over and he says, something in French that none of us can decipher. And
Yep.
so we all just kind of are looking at each other. There's like maybe 5 of us in this ditch, and there's like awkward glances exchanged, and someone's like, "Does anyone here speak French?" And then you tried to say something along the lines of, no one here speaks French.
Right. Yeah. I was
communicate
like, I
that.
was really trying, but
Yeah.
no,
It's
it
like
didn't get
your French
across.
grammar was like so bad that they thought that, or they were pretending to think that you thought you were saying that you did speak French. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
suddenly they're
They were
all
looking
trying to
at me
speak to
like, yeah,
you
oh,
in
he's
French, and you're
good.
just like, no, no.
No.
But I mean, this went on for probably about 5 minutes or so, just trying to
Yeah.
decipher what they wanted from us. And then eventually, they kept saying piqué, piqué. And we
Yeah.
determined they wanted one of our pixaxes that we had lying
Yeah.
in the trench. And so we were like, oh, the
I think
pick.
those were theirs. I think those
Yeah,
were
I mean, they
theirs. They were
left them
just like
there
up there. Yeah.
originally.
Yeah.
So we handed over the pickaxe, and then they went away and continued to work on this trench that we were digging.
Yep.
And we all felt so stupid afterwards.
Yeah. We were like, oh, of course.
Wow, we need to
Right.
take some language classes or something.
Right. I
But
mean, but that's authentic though. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah.
a British soldier who just, either worked like in a factory before the war, or, maybe, more of a like a working class guy probably didn't exactly know how to speak French, if
Oh, for
any
sure.
at all.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
that was kind
definitely,
of that was kind of a neat encounter. It felt, kind of, at least for me, it kind of put me in the moment like, oh, this is, kind of felt legit. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a very period experience, although
yeah.
I'm definitely going to pick up like a French phrase book or something for the
Yes.
next
Yeah.
event, just to keep in my little pay book.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a really fun thing that happened while we were out there. Aside from that, pretty uneventful, except at one point a flare got shot off, which
Yep.
scared the heck out of me. It
We
wasn't
all
even a
proceed
German
to
flare either. It was a French flare. It came from our lines.
right.
But, it's suddenly the whole woods, light up, everything's red. And of course I look at it immediately because I'm just like, oh,
Ooh,
what's that?
shiny.
And everyone's like, no, 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 don't look at it. And then of course it's this bright red light, and my night vision is gone.
Yeah, you just went into moth mode.
Yeah, pretty much. Lamp.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were out there for 2 hours, and I think by the time we were relieved, we were all thankful for it, because when you're just sitting there in a hole, and it's I don't know, probably 10 degrees outside, even with the greatcoat and everything, when you're not moving,
Hmm.
it gets pretty cold pretty fast.
Oh yeah, I was
Um,
sitting there in my goat skin
yeah.
stinker there, and I was
Mhm.
kind of regretting every decision I had made up until that point. I was like, oh my, this is horrible.
Yeah.
But we
Fortunately,
powered through.
yeah, fortunately, not too long after that, we were relieved, and the French took over for us full time. So we went back to the barracks and got all nice and toasty again. Another benefit of so many people canceling is that they had made food for 30 people, and there's only
Yeah.
10 of us. So I mean, they fed us well. I mean, we had
Yeah.
uh, you know beef stew and hot chocolate and tea and all the staples, all the
Yeah.
classic World War I stuff,
Yep.
uh, and plenty of it. So we were up in the barracks for a while, just kind of talking, catching
Yeah.
up. There were a lot of new faces for me, so it was nice to kind of get to know everyone who was there. And then around, I think maybe like 11 o'clock, 10:30. I don't know exactly what time it was. I didn't have a watch on me.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking
You
at the
lose
time either.
track of time in there very quickly because there's no windows. I mean,
Right.
it could be 10 o'clock at night. It could be 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It all blends together.
Yeah.
But sometime, I want to say towards midnight, we did like a little reconnaissance mission, I would say, across no
Right.
man's land, into the German trenches, and decided to see if that whole Christmas truce thing was still on.
Right.
Which fortunately it was, and so we went into one of their dugouts, and there were some German guys there, and we had libations with them. Perhaps too many libations, because we were there for far longer than I intended.
Yeah, I want to say at least a
Um,
couple hours, if not
yeah,
more.
by the end of it, I was on the verge of falling asleep standing up.
Yeah.
So I was honestly, I was kind of getting fed up of it. I was like about ready to just go back across no man's land by
Yeah, I
myself,
had to tell you, I was
which
like,
would have
dude,
been,
wait, we don't know these trenches. You don't want to get stuck on the wire or
no, that
something.
would have been a mistake on my part.
Right.
Yeah, fortunately, we found our way back to our trenches, and uh, slept out the night pretty comfortably back in the barracks. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning, we get up and immediately went to stand two. So
Yep.
we went to the front and we posted sentries and just kind of waited to see if the Germans were going to show up, because like I said before, they didn't show up the previous night, at least not while we were there. Although when we were back in the barracks, we did hear quite a bit of gunfire coming from the outpost where we had left. So
Yep.
the French definitely got some action that night, but we were not involved. We were busy eating our stew, being like, "Oh, gee, that sounds dangerous."
I'm okay with that though. I mean,
Yeah.
even that's like that was kind of a cathartic experience,
Mhm.
like you wouldn't always have been in every single action. So like
Yeah.
it was kind of cool to be on the way back / going into the bunker, and all of a sudden you hear the gunfire going.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. It was
Yep.
pretty cool. Next morning, right at sunrise, we were manning the line, and I got some video of going out there and just kind of looking out over no man's land, and it was really cool experience just seeing that blanket of snow,
Yeah.
over the barbed wire and all the shell holes and everything. Just really adds a whole other dimension to it.
Yeah, for real.
It was very immersive. But yeah, no Germans actually showed up that morning. It was actually kind of funny because the lieutenant who was with us went out across no man's land with one other guy, and again went down into their trenches to kind of see if he could figure out what was going on. And he like went into one of their dugouts, and there were a bunch of guys in there, but like only one guy awake.
Yeah.
Like some kid. Everyone else is fast asleep. So he just opens the door, like the kid looks at him, and he just waves at him, and then he shuts the door, comes back across to our lines, and he's like, "Yeah, they're not coming this morning." So we
Yeah.
were out there for about 30 minutes, and then we stood down, went back to the barracks, had breakfast again. Again, implying we had breakfast, and it was like, it was oatmeal with like some jam.
Yeah.
So really, again, pretty basic, but good.
Very filling.
Yeah. And then we had some, various other activities throughout the morning. Actually, it was cool. That same lieutenant who was with us had a collection of original boots and gas gear that he got to show us, which was really cool. So we got a nice presentation on that. Yeah, so that was a really unique experience, just seeing that amount of original gear all laid out in front of us. It was, I can't imagine how much he spent on that. But
yeah. It is kind of cool to see that kind of stuff up close. Get to see like the minor details and see the stuff that like the reproductions miss and stuff like that, like the pH hood with the like tin can, like the sockets, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know why I can't put a name to that part right now, but yeah, with the glass and stuff, that was kind of cool, because you get to see that recycling factor too, that I never really even like thought about. They would recycle everything that they could and try and use it in some other capacity, if not the same. So that was actually really cool to see up close and in person.
And then so after that, we that went on until basically around noontime. So we had lunch, and then around lunchtime we had a mail call, which was really interesting. We had a bunch of personalized letters that were addressed specifically to us, so they had our names and what unit we were in.
I think I have mine still.
Yeah, I've got mine in my pocket as well.
Oh, is it gonna work? No.
Oh,
well, there you go.
You can kind of
see it.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was like somebody had just kind of written all of these letters ahead of time and just sort of distributed them randomly amongst us. And so they all had, they were supposed to be like letters from home. It was kind of funny though, because everyone else mostly got like, they were sweetheart letters, basically.
Yeah.
But then I got this letter that was like, it was just like really dark.
Yeah,
It
yours
started off
was
dark
very
right off
unfortunate.
the bat, and then it just gets like progressively like worse
Yeah, there's
as it
no
goes
coming
on.
back.
Yeah, so it's I got it right here. I'm gonna read it.
Hmm.
So it starts with, "Son, it is with sad news that I write to inform you that your sister Alice died on a hospital ship. Her last letter was full of love to us all. She and her friend Camille were very proud of you and Camille's family. I was told the girls probably froze in the water instead of drowning.
Oh,
Your sister was always afraid of drowning. Thus far, I have only heard of Camille's body being recovered.
ugh.
I'm, I am not sure if they are going to continue looking for Alice. I will let you know if we hear more. Safe travels, my dear."
Oh
It's
God.
just
This is like
right
rips
off the
your heart
bat.
out, or just
It's
right, just rips your heart right out.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was very, very sobering stuff. And again,
Uh-huh.
not entirely unrealistic. Stuff like that would happen most likely.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of this interesting experience because I'm getting this letter and everyone else is sharing their letter and they're all happy and I'm just reading it and it just just kind of like hits me like a freight train.
Yeah.
And I kind
Ugh.
of just stuff it into my pocket and I'm like, I don't think I'll be sharing that one. I think I'll keep
No.
that to myself. But yeah, got a bunch of other stuff too. These like little postcards from
Yeah.
the ladies of Carlisle. So that was nice. These little bottles that were clearly just, they had the Bacardi logo on top, but
Yeah.
they were all dressed up with like little period labels.
Yeah.
I think one
I
of them
think,
said like Indian diarrhea cure or
yeah, that's the one
something.
I got, the
Yeah.
Indian diarrhea cure.
Yeah, I got the constipation remedy. So
Yeah.
which
I'll swap with you if you want. I
yeah,
still have mine.
I don't think that I'll be needing that remedy. I think the letter probably did a good enough job
Yeah.
as it is. But yeah, and lots of other stuff too. I mean, we got like period chocolate, or no, it was modern chocolate, but with period labels. I don't think
Yeah.
I would trust actual period chocolate, but
Yeah, I know.
um, yeah. So we did that, and then after that, we got assigned to a work party.
Yep.
So there were two guys representing the Royal Engineers there. And with them, we constructed some roadblocks using period tools. They had a bunch of original, authentic tools from World War One. They had their, basic hammer and saw and nails and all that. And they had these, hand crank, drill presses, where you
Yeah.
press down and you rotate them and it, drills the hole for the nail and then you pound it through. So it really gives you an appreciation for power tools when you're drilling a hole through a 2x4 and it takes you 10 minutes just
Yeah.
to drill one hole. But that was pretty neat, being involved in that and getting to construct something that ostensibly is going to be actually used in an event later down the line.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of funny too. I tried to capture this on video, but of course, as soon as I hit record, they stopped. But
Right.
the Germans must have had some kind of machine gun set up across the no man's land because we're out there and we're sawing these boards, and you just hear like an MG08 suddenly open up.
Yeah, just in the
trench.
distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just this reminder that the event's still on. Where it's an immersion event, right? So
Yeah.
stuff like that is to be expected and
Yeah,
appreciated.
of course.
Yeah. So yeah, we did that. And then around, I want to say like 12:30, 1 o'clock, finally we had our first taste of combat, which
Yep.
again is not it was not like an all-out assault like you have at these larger tacticals. Because again, there were only 8 guys with our whole group. It was just kind of a small trench raid, but we broke up into sections. So it was 4 people per section, and we kind of went out across no man's land, kind of flanked around to the left of the German line, and we ended up in this kind of derelict trench network.
Yep.
It's kind of just a bunch of shell holes and little scrapes that were just kind of, all zigzagging around. And, we're looking for the Germans, and there no sign of them until finally, we end up in this part of the trench that's basically, it was in like a little gully,
Yep.
right in front of their front line, which is extremely heavily fortified. I mean, we probably chose the absolute worst place to pop our heads up, because it was like, we come out of this trench and there's just a bunker right in front of us, just this big
Yeah.
bunker. And so they start opening up on us. So, we duck down, we break into our sections. I ended up in completely the wrong section.
Yeah, you like swapped sections.
Yeah, well, because the lieutenant was with me. He told me to, like, guard the entrance to, one part of the trench. And then, my section went one way, and then he told me to go another, and I just got all mixed up.
Yeah. You just follow the orders. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, so we started opening up on them, and then the section that I ended up with, we, hopped up out of our trench and went down into part of no man's land where there was like a destroyed farmhouse with like a big crater right in the middle of it. And
Yep.
so we all ducked down into that, and we start opening up. And so I finally got to fire my SMLE for the first time. I've had the thing again for almost 2 years, never once fired it until now.
Yeah.
And I just had all of these old crappy blanks that have been, stuck in my pouches since the first march that we did, approximately 3,000 years ago, in September of 2020.
Yeah.
So, those have been with me for a while, and they're the short kind. They're not.
Yeah.
most
The ones that
high-quality
jam
rounds.
real easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got in one charger and, fired off my 5 rounds, no problems. Went on to load a second one, and I got off like 2 shots, and then the thing just kind of like stopped going off. I was just jamming. So I handed my rifle to Tom, who's our corporal in the borders. He took a look at it. He cleared the jam, and then he loaded in a bunch of his blanks, which are like the good kind, the red tipped ones.
Yeah.
And so I load those in, and I go to take aim out of this window, and it's just like boom.
Yeah.
The difference in the,
Night and day, yeah.
qualities, just immediately apparent, just the kickback. So to be honest, I didn't even really see a German the entire time that we were down in that house,
I saw them. So like there were those trenches right in front of us, but then there were like these trees kind of behind there, like those shrubs. They were like hiding behind those trees, and that's where I saw them.
Yeah, I mean, I got like a glimpse of a Pickelhaube or two, but that was about it.
Yeah.
So I was mostly just kind of firing blind.
Yeah. Just trying to like kind of keep them suppressed, because also where we were on the other side of this little ridge was no man's land, and that's where the second section was. So they were kind of coming up on the right flank, because then I remember trying to climb that thing, and I kept like slipping down.
Yeah.
I ended up like crawling my way up, and I was like trying to act as the middleman between that section and the no man's land section.
Yeah.
And then they like tried to kind of skirt up around the right and get like jam bombs in there. And then you guys pushed up through that other bunker.
Yeah.
And then we kind of caught them, and then we met back up at that like kind of last push area.
Yeah. So it's like your section kind of swept around through no man's land, jumped down into their trench, and then we filtered up from the farmhouse into sort of the lower part, and kind of like worked our way through the back of their line. And it was funny because we're trying to like, move quietly and like not alert them to exactly where we are. But one of the problems that we consistently encountered throughout this entire event was the snow was like, it was packed. It was like that kind of snow that packs really easily.
Yeah.
And so we're like, trying to walk, and it's like every step that you take, that snow would be building up on your heels.
Yeah.
So it's like, you take 5 steps and suddenly it's like you're trying to walk in like 8-inch heels.
Right.
And so it's like, we're just like having to like stomp our feet on the duck boards just to clear the snow. And it's like, well, they if they didn't know where we are, they do now.
Right. Yeah. Plus, I mean, they kind of knew the path we were taking, because we could only really go so far before you hit the road.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to kind of not use the road.
Yeah.
So yeah, going up through those trenches, they kind of knew where we were. We kind of
Mhm.
knew where they were.
Yeah. But we
Um,
ended up basically pushing them out of that like first line of trenches.
yeah,
And they fell back into this second line. So there was like a bit of a gap between the two lines. Uh,
yeah,
and we're all kind of stacked up getting ready to charge out of this trench and jump down into the second line. um, and so the two sections are together now. First section, they filter out one by one. There's like 4 Germans in the second line trench. 3 of them immediately break and run. There's like that
uh-huh.
one fourth guy who decided to stand his ground, and he just like fires off 4 shots quick succession, just drops everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys,
Yeah,
yeah, you get. I mean, they were within that range where you can kind of determine, like, all right, he, fair enough, he would have got me.
yeah.
So
So it's
they were good sports. They all went down.
yeah, and so it's like it's just you and me and Tom, I
Well,
think.
Ian was with us too. There was, I mean,
Yeah,
our section was intact still. So, but I
yeah.
mean, we
There's
tried to, well, because we had those hand bombs, and I
mhm,
tried throwing them at that guy who was on the right. Well, it turned out he was already dead.
mhm.
But like I saw him like moving around, so I thought he was still alive. So I was like, okay. And I got one right in his hole, but he was already dead. So
Yeah,
I threw another one kind of a little more towards the right, because there were a couple guys in there, but I think my bomb fell a little short.
yeah.
But then we snuck into that little side trench. But as that happened, you went down.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we were so the first section they ran straight ahead and immediately just all got picked off.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so we poked our heads out and just saw them all lying in the snow. So it was like, okay, so we're not going to go that way. So you chucked that bomb off to the side, and we decided to try to cross over into that shell hole where you chucked the bomb at the German who happened to already be dead.
yeah,
Um, so it was like you and Tom jumped into the shell hole, and I was the last one in, and or the last one out of the trench rather. But I was just like I was really kind of huffing and puffing at that point because I mean we're decked out and we're wearing these stiff caps and the great coats and everything. Uh, and you get really warm really quickly when you're running around and all of that. It's great for when you're standing around and you're not doing very much. It keeps you pretty cozy, but
yeah,
you overheat very quickly when you're actually in a combat scenario
yeah,
with all of that on. Um, yeah, so I mean, I was kind of in over my head a little bit, and so I'm running as fast as I can, but it's just not quite fast enough. And I get out and I just hear so many just German rifles just open up on me. It's just like bang, 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 bang. And so I'm just running and I'm thinking, okay, realistically, there's no way I got out of that. And
right,
so I just kind of, slump over in the snow right next to the shell hole. And then you and Tom continued on.
yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
yeah,
so
you're,
Tom, Ian, and I, we got into that
mm,
hole, and then Ian made his way down into the trench, and this German comes running at him, like ready to like go hand to hand. And then I jumped down there, and I kind of like, obviously we're not hitting each other for real, but
mm,
like, we kind of staged like and I kind of got him like, in the side a little bit. So he was like, all right, I'll go down. So he
yeah,
went down. We like worked our way down that little covered trench, and it turns out there were 2 Bavarians sitting over in the corner there. So we're trying to be quiet. We're like sneaking down the side, and then I came around the corner. There was one there. I fired up. He fired, and then I like poked my head out to see if he went down. Wrong decision. So he was right there. He got one off. So I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. You got me. So I went down. Another guy came. One of the Bavarians came around the corner, and then Tom got him.
mhm,
And so eventually, it was just kind of like a stalemate at that point. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I think then Tom told Ian to go find the lieutenant and ask him what to do. I mean, there was only 2 guys left. I mean, yeah. I mean, it kind of just paused. Like
yeah,
we kind of just like rose, like shook hands real quick, and then we thought we were gonna keep going.
yeah.
Like
Well,
the
because they
Germans were
told us, yeah, they
Yeah, the
told us
Germans were
that,
like, well, let's keep it going. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna like go back and we'll wait for you guys, and you guys can kind of like push us.
mhm, yeah, they
So
specifically said that they would chase us.
yeah, they said they would chase us. And
Mhm,
that didn't happen.
No, I
Which
mean
is fine.
we're like sitting out in this shell hole in the middle of no man's land, kind of waiting for them to pop their heads out, and they just kind of didn't. So
Yeah.
and so we're just kind of sitting there thinking, okay, well, we look kind of stupid just sitting here. So we kind of leapfrogged back across into our trenches, and that was sort of the conclusion of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was again, like I said, not an all-out, assault, but definitely, more than enough action to keep most people satisfied, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, yeah, my first taste of um, a combat scenario in this particular era. So it was, I definitely, I was immersed. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely felt immersed.
Hmm.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it was a little more living history based. It wasn't just like about the combat.
Hmm.
Like April and November are very combat heavy, which is great. Like I always have a great time doing. I mean, in the couple times that I've done it, I've always had a great time. Like, all right, I'm okay doing all this combat, but it was nice to kind of approach more of like a day in the life,
Hmm.
because you weren't always fighting. So like it was nice to go about the day in the life, you know, ins and out. Well, maybe not full ins and outs, but
Hmm.
the ins and outs of being a Tommy, forming up, marching, doing uh projects, mail, all that kind of stuff was neat to see that we
Hmm.
don't normally do.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I like.
Hmm.
Um, I think definitely, coming from a background of um, being in groups that are all about quantity over quality. Let's say
Hmm.
it's nice to
Okay.
for once have an event that's the inverse of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm excited to go back for future events and seeing how they compare. I mean, uh, it's wild just seeing just the scope of that site.
Yeah.
And I explored, I think, maybe 2% of it the entire time that I was there.
Yeah. We
Um,
didn't go through much of it.
no, there's like a whole other section where the French were, where
Yeah.
it's like all like destroyed houses and everything. I mean, they really just go all out with this place. I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean,
incredible,
trust me,
what they put
we
into
do
it.
as well. I think we do a fairly good job as well of
Hmm.
getting into it. But yeah, those the French guys really do a great job putting it all together for themselves, and
Hmm.
it definitely is it's a it's a sight.
It's a side. So yeah,
Um,
so we had our little trench raid, and there were a few other activities that we had before the end of the day. One of the guys put together a period correct boxing training event,
yep.
which was pretty fun. So we got the old leather boxing gloves on and did some sparring.
Yep.
Uh, so that was another little interesting thing. And it was kind of funny, especially because a few weeks ago they had that picture on that World War I colorized photo group of
Yeah.
the two guys boxing.
Oh, I'd
So
love to recreate that photo, but it's got to be a little bit warmer to
yeah,
be
I mean
down
they're in
to
shirt
the
sleeves in that
undershirt.
photo, so
Yeah.
needs to be a bit warmer. But yeah, just seeing all the period correct activities was really cool. Of course, it kind of funny because you would see something like this, and then immediately everyone's like, "Oh, that's cool! I got to get a picture." Because you know, the only thing that was really period incorrect was all of the cell phones coming out every 10 minutes or so. But
Yeah.
um,
I mean, it's
I mean, you
nice. Like
can't
you
really
want to be
blame
able to,
them.
yeah. I mean, you want to be able to kind of relive these moments. At least that's what it is for me. Like I love to like look back on these and be like, oh, that was so cool. We did that.
Hmm.
Um, and just to have like a little, picture just to kind of refresh that memory for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. The boxing. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And I know they were kind of talking about bringing that more
Hmm.
into like a actual like organized setting. Do like a training thing, but if you want to participate in like a match, like you got to bring a mouthpiece, and we'll figure
Hmm.
out some sort of like headgear. Obviously, just for like safety's sake, that probably isn't period correct boxing with a, you know, with a helmet on, but you know, I'm sure with, you know, today's safety standards and, you know, bylaws and rules and stuff like that, you probably gotta, you know, make sure that you take all the proper steps to make sure nobody gets seriously beat up. Yeah.
Well, that's sort of the whole process. I mean, it's one of the nice advantages of, you know, these smaller scale events is being able to pilot potential activities for later events. I mean, I heard the organizers talking about utilizing that little observation post that we constructed for future
Yeah.
spectacles.
I hope so. I mean,
yeah.
we dug that hole in the cold, man.
Yeah, they'd better well use it for something.
Yeah, right. We sat out there for 2 hours like,
Mhm.
in the cold. I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard some talk of potentially using it for like an Argonne scenario or something.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Americans and the French, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I think my biggest takeaway from that event was the whole temperature climate aspect. I think, at least for me, it was.
Yeah.
You know, you get a whole new appreciation. Plus, I think it was actually really cool to kind of switch around the webbing and the kit and stuff like that, because normally most of the time we're doing like post 1916, you know, to 1918 for our scenarios.
Yeah, so it's a different configuration for the webbing.
Yeah, and not even 1916, you know, 1917, 1918, because you have all the different groups that come in. You have a lot of Americans, a decent amount of French. I mean, there are certainly a lot of British guys, at least from what I've seen. But you know, to include people who want to do those impressions, obviously, there's a big presence, of course, being in North America. You're going to have a lot of guys that want to do American naturally.
Yeah.
So more often than not, we're usually doing a, you know, a post 1917, 1918 type event. So this was really kind of cool, just to have French and British and German. And you get to switch around the kit, you know, you get to wear the big valise pack. You know, you get to move your e-tool around. There's no gas equipment, which I think is nice. I always have kind of a difficult time trying to get the SBR,
the SBR,
you know, situated in the right place and get it to stay there. But it was nice not to have to worry about any like gas equipment. But this was a nice little like side note, you know, besides like our main thing where we're usually doing 1917, kind of going full out with that. So this was a nice little change of pace, different kind of learning experience.
Yeah, it's nice to break out the stiff cap every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I mean, for all the trouble that we went trying to find those things.
Oh my God.
Too.
Yeah. It's like I thought I was all set, you know, I was going to wear my gore blimey and I thought it would be fine, but apparently just for the specific time period that we were going for, if we had been doing, you know, winter 1915 and it was, you know, like December 1915 going into 16, sure, the gore blimey would have been fine. But apparently, you know, for January 1915, although the gore blimey was around, it hadn't really found its way, you know, into the front line just yet, at least not on a large scale. So we had to, you know, gather up all of these stiff caps last minute, you know, like 2 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
And it was like every place you could think of was pretty much sold out. You know, Soldier of Fortune had some, but Soldier of Fortune is really finicky with their caps. I mean, you know, you buy 2 caps that are supposedly the same size and they end up being radically different sizes, even though they both pay, you know, 7 1/4 or something. And, you know, obviously our friend Jonathan of the Far Off Station has had his own problems with trying to get those caps as well. So that's a question for him if you want to get him really riled up.
I mean, plus just like the maker that is recommended to get the caps from doesn't have the actual like material to make them. So, you know, certainly our hobby is feeling the effects of the like logistics problem going on around in the world with COVID and all that. So hopefully it'll be back soon, but you know, we may do with the caps we got from Soldier of Fortune, or
Mhm.
I mean, even What Price Glory was out of them.
Yeah,
So a few of us got them from that place in Australia,
yeah.
Warwick's.
Which is funny because I mean, I think this is one of the caps that came from there. But if you take it off and like look at the underside, it very clearly says What Price Glory
Yeah,
just on. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I mean,
yeah,
okay, whatever.
yeah. I mean, we all made do. We all looked all right. You know, we looked good,
Mhm.
I thought. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more than excited to get back out in April though.
Oh
Do
yeah, for
do
sure.
the late war
Yeah.
tactical. I feel like we'll have a lot more guys there, a lot more people there. You know, not just for our group, but like for the
Mhm.
entire Great War Association, since those are the bigger tacticals. A lot more people come out for them. I
Mhm.
mean, in November, I mean, it was kind of day and night with this event. You know, small, big,
Mhm.
but you know, I appreciate the small events too. That's why I wanted to do this,
Yeah, absolutely.
just to get a completely different experience, which was really great. I definitely learned a lot, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Yeah, obviously, very exciting just to get down there for the first time and to experience just what the site is like. But I'm expecting that coming back in April, assuming that I'm able to, it'll just be a night and day difference of just the amount of activity.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I'm hooked on this time period now. I gotta say. So,
good.
um,
It's a great time period.
yep. So our friend from Turkey will be very happy to hear that there will be more World War I content in the future.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had that I wanted to get off my chest. Just really wanted to sort of give you guys an update on you know what has been going on. I wasn't able to get much actual filming done of this event, but I thought it would be kind of fun to just do sort of like an after action report style uh, podcast, I guess you would say. I'm kind of thinking of branching out and doing more of this style of content in the future. So if you guys are interested in seeing more of that, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Um, but yeah, that's all I that's all I had for today. So
Yeah, same here. I think we kind of covered all the ground.
all right, well, thank you for joining us on this little special presentation here on the Chris the Redcoat channel. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, again, leave a like and a comment down below. It really helps me out. And until next time, God save the king.